Guys, it's that time. It's Watch News Weekly, as always, and I got some interesting information to share with you guys. Before I do, of course, I'm going to talk about what's on the wrist. Every other episode, I forget to do so. Today, I went with the Vacheron World Time, and not just any World Time. This World Time is on steroids, and the very reason I choose this World Time over many others is the fact that this is not your traditional time zone watch. This watch actually acknowledges that the world is made up of time zones that are not just 24 hours, right? There are 37 time zones that are shown on this watch, and this watch actually will allow you to automatically set the minute hand to time zones that are not exactly hours apart, but also could be an hour and a half apart, or 45 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. What's amazing about this watch is, you have 37 different cities, unlike on other watches, most of the time you'll see 24. And on top of that, the middle of the watch, you have the night and date indicator where there's a crystal that moves inside that's slightly darker that would actually show you where it's nighttime and where it is. And again, when setting this watch, when you get to a city, let's say that's 5.5 hours away from your time zone, it will actually automatically adjust the minute hand, which is really, really cool. Again, as the case with most world time watches, very undervalued complication in general. So oftentimes you'll pick this up on a secondary at a discount from Vacheron. Anyway, first bit of news, I'm going to talk to you about Geneva Watch Days. Geneva Watch Days takes place in Geneva, you guessed it, August 29th through the 2nd. I am going to be in Geneva during that time. So if any of you guys see me walking around with one of my camera guys, please come up, say hello. One of the points, or one of the goals of me visiting Geneva is actually to get a consumer's take of what's going on in the watch world, what they saw in Geneva Watch Days and what they actually liked. I did get a decent amount of footage of that last time when I was there for Watches and Wonders, but this time around I'd like to beef that footage up because it's really important what you guys think on new models, current models, state of the watch market. It's really important to me anyway, how you guys feel about it, because it certainly gives me a cue, and I'm sure others would love to hear from you as well. So if you see me running around, stop, say hello, say a few words on camera if you'd like. If not, just stop and say hello, because I told you guys numerous times, all I do most of the time is I stare at that lens, and I don't get to meet a lot of you guys face to face, and I love doing that. So news. What's on the news today? Tag Heuer recreates the Abercrombie and Fitch watch. We recently sold an original one of those. It went for buku dollars in its original condition. It was pretty pristine. A highly collectible watch among collectors of vintage pieces, and doing a remake of the Abercrombie and Fitch watch, I think was an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. Now, they're making 968 pieces. So it's not a small limited edition, although I have no doubt they will sell out regardless, because a big fan base for that particular watch. There's no MSRP on it yet. I don't know what that watch is going to go for. And Tag Heuer lately has been all over the board with pricing. They have really inexpensive watches, and they have a split set chronograph for $130,000. So I don't know where this is going to end up. Abercrombie & Fitch started as an outfitter for hunters and fishermen, et cetera, et cetera. Now they sell cologne-scented shirts, right? So they've come a long way from being basically a fisherman hunter store to now being mostly an apparel company, if you will. I mean, they did sell rifles and tents, and at some point they also sold watches, and those watches were ordered from Tag Heuer to sell to the sportsmen to use in hunting, fishing, etc. So in the past, they teamed up with Heuer, not Tag Heuer, it was Heuer at the time, to make a tide indicator watch, the So Lunar they called it, right? So this time they're doing sort of a reboot with the new Seafarer. They brought back the tide indicator in that watch. Colorful 3 o'clock subdial, 30-minute chronograph register split into yacht timer segments. It's a near copy of the original, but the 6 o'clock register switches things up, as it's now running a seconds display instead of the 12-hour chronograph counter. The case has also been updated, and I guess it's worth mentioning. This is a Hodinkee project, another Hodinkee project. And they wanted the watch to have one foot in Heuer's past and another in Tag Heuer's future. So the brand's modern 42mm Carrera glass box case was selected for this particular project. If we look at the picture, I think the watch is an absolute knockout. Hodinkee haven't messed around with the secondary market and is now out of the secondary market. If you saw, I talked about this in another episode of Watch News Weekly, is going back to what they do best, and that's doing these type of collaborations with brands, bringing to light past creations into modern times, if you will. I'm a big fan of this project. I think this watch will do really, really well. Konstantin Chaykin. Talked about this guy numerous times. You guys may have seen some of the drama that took place in this office when Roman bought a Minions watch, and the whole world went wild for them. Me and Adrian had a bet going. He thought it was a bad buy, a Roman buy, as he dubbed it, and I felt that it was an excellent buy, and lo and behold, within 30 days, we ended up selling 4 of those pieces and still have calls on the watch and trying to get our hands on some more, if you will. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm not here to talk about the Minions watch. I'm here to talk about Konstantin Chaykin's 20-year anniversary project, which is the most complicated watch that Konstantin Chaykin has ever made. 17 complications, 664 parts, double-sided case, 2 dials, and a pre-shaped reversible strap. So it's a 2-for, as I like to call it. You get a 2-for-1, right? And of course, I'll explain further why it needed to be a 2-face watch due to the amount of complications. I'm going to quote Chaykin. He said, "I wanted to make the 20th anniversary of item manufacturing by combining my 3 main creative ideas: ultra-complex watch mechanics, an anthropomorphic design." What does that mean, anyone?
Described or thought of as a human form or having human attributes.
Okay, so described as having human forms or human attributes, so therefore he's referring to the watches, his past creations where the watch took a form of a human being smiling. So I guess that's just a fancy word of saying it's still in the form of a smiley face. 1 million Swiss francs. Is it called for? Absolutely, because I'm going to run through the complications and you guys will see just how complicated. This is his grand comp. This is how complicated this watch gets. So 2 sides of the watch, dark side, light side. On the dark side, you're going to see a regulated display of mean solar time, hours and minutes. You're going to see the length of the day, the length of the night, equation of time, retrograde, which is the difference between solar time and mean time, retrograde day of the week indicator, zodiac, map of the northern hemisphere, celestial map, 24-hour mean solar time indicator, and a 24-hour side rail time indicator. On the light side, you get a more astronomical thing. So you get astronomic precision moon phase and moon age display with a deviation of 1 day in 122 years and a differential mechanism for driving and setting the display. A 4-stage discrete moon phase indicator. This is a world premiere. A solar activity cycle and current cycle duration indicator, also world premiere. You also have a sunset and sunrise azimuth indicator, both world premieres, and of course a tourbillon. I love the fact that he went with this design because undoubtedly you look at this watch and you say, oh, that's a Konstantin Chaykin. Kudos to Konstantin for creating this wonderful, wonderful piece of horology. I think this is a watch that many will talk about for years to come. I wonder how long it took him to actually develop that timepiece. He certainly had to have started out years ago in creating something like this. Not everyone out there can even physically match what Konstantin has done with this particular watch, and I think at 1 million Swiss francs is worth every penny. I don't know how many he's making. That's the only thing I don't know. If you guys do know, comment below. Let's talk about a little bit of watch crime. I read an article the other day. Some man was choked unconscious in Union Square subway early Friday, according to police, obviously, and sources. 26-year-old guy was heading down the stairs, noticed another man following him into the subway station on 13th and 7th Avenue at around 1 a.m. He believes he was choked out for his watch because when he woke up, the Rolex was missing. He was taken to a hospital for treatment. He's perfectly fine, thank God for that. And police are talking about major subway crimes dropping to a 15-year low this year. They also say crime decreased by 20% this July compared to July 2023. Watches and crime have become a big thing. And part of the reason they become a big thing is because watches have become much more mainstream than they were in the past, if you will. You guys hear horrible stories about crime in London for watches. Well, I'll tell you firsthand. I was in London when I went to visit a couple of trade shows that Paul Thorpe and Spencer from BQ Watches invited me to. If you guys saw the YouTube video, you saw that we were being cased and I was checked out, if you will, I'm assuming to set us up to get robbed for watches. But people in London do not feel very, very safe. And these 2 young dealers that just started recently in the business sent me a DM, say, hey, Roman, I see you in London. If you don't mind, could you please give us 20 minutes of your time so we can just pick your brain? I'm all for that. I met with the kids in the hotel and we started talking and they started telling me stories like, hey, when I leave my office, I don't put anything on my wrist. I'm very, very limited in regards to what we put out on social media because we get cased based on social media postings. So how do we grow our business? What do we do about this? And these guys are located in probably the most expensive area of London in Mayfair, and they don't even have a sign on their office. They don't advertise their location, and they're stuck to basically doing business by referral. They can't utilize the power of social media to continually grow their business, et cetera, because they're afraid of getting set up, getting robbed, or, God forbid, getting hurt. So that's the London situation. And in the United States, I'm hearing more and more stories from clients that are like, they feel uncomfortable wearing watches in certain cities. They feel uncomfortable wearing watches that are showy in certain places that they go to, and they tend to leave their stuff at home and only wear them in situations where they feel comfortable, if you will. Now I'm hearing stories of people going to fancy restaurants, and the staff at those restaurants cases out the patrons and makes a phone call or a text saying, hey, such and such is wearing this particular Richard Mille. He's going to be leaving the restaurant in about 20 minutes, and people get robbed. It's absolutely, absolutely terrible what's going on when it comes to crime and watches. It is affecting business in certain regions to a point where sales are down, where people are saying, you know what, I don't know if I want to purchase something that expensive that catches my attention, and that catches people's attentions, and I may possibly get robbed, which I see it as a huge issue. But I know that police departments across the world are working on that, and they're doing their best to stop that. There was another gray market episode where a young dealer friend of mine called me and said his watch was stolen out of his hotel. He was at a hotel during a watch fair, which was a B2B show, so that obviously that hotel was being scoped out, and I'm assuming, again, employees are in on it. Because of social media, because of how in your face all this stuff is, everybody's become extremely knowledgeable in watches. They know exactly what you have on your wrist, which increases the danger, obviously, of you getting robbed. But I am the guy that says, you know what, I'm out, I'm about, whatever's on my wrist is insured. If somebody decides to rob me for my watch, it is what it is, it happens. I'm in the United States, we have this little amendment called the right to bear arms. So if some of you guys think you want to take a watch off my wrist, I would think twice about it. But it's just a terrible, terrible situation. I hate hearing the stories. But the easiest way to prevent that is there are plenty of clients out there that are actually buying. There's a big market on stolen watches out and about. And I know guys that will take a watch, buy it for pennies on the dollars, knowing that it's stolen, saying, hey, what do I care? I just saved myself 50 grand and I'm wearing this wonderful watch. Well, if you guys stop doing that, that particular market stops, and therefore the need to rob people will stop. Another Tag Heuer story. Steve McQueen's watch is heading to auction, right? Arguably, this is the world's most iconic chronograph movie watch. Again, guys, comment below if you disagree. But Steve McQueen's Square Tag Heuer from the film Le Mans is up for sale. And it's up for sale for the first time. Now, people are saying not to expect for this to fetch as much as Paul Newman's Daytona, but this other racing timepiece is sure to be one of the most expensive ever sold. There were 6 watches that were used on a set. 2 of them sit in the Tag Museum. Another was sold in 2020 when Phillips auctioned off one of the watches McQueen had kept and subsequently gifted to his mechanic, who actually worked on the film. That one sold for $2.2 million, making it the most expensive Heuer watch ever sold, by the way. Now, this record still stands, but is almost certainly now in danger of being broken. You're now tending to the world of racing. Like this gets me excited, not just from the fact that it's an iconic vintage watch, but it also is tied to racing. I'm into racing. So you're going to have many worlds collide upon this auction. Those that are fans of Steve McQueen's, movie fans, Le Mans race fans in general. This is something that is just going to bring in many more eyes from outside of the watch world in general, which is why I think it will result in the breaking of the $2.2 million record. It's going to go under hammer in Sotheby's December 11th during the Heuer Championships auction, which features a collection of other vintage Heuer chronograph as part of Sotheby's Important Watches series. I'm going to do my best to get out to Sotheby's and get my hands on this watch in person, do a little bit of preview, show it to you guys before the auction kicks off. And they came out of hiding this weekend in Monterey during the Monterey Car Week. Surprise, surprise. To me, it gets me excited as a collector. Some people may say, well, you know what, I don't really care. But I think that most of the money may come, or biz, I should say, may come from outside of watch lovers, but rather than racing lovers. And that's just my hot take. And I think this watch will beat the record of $2.2 million that was set. Time will show. We'll see what happens in December. And as I said, in the interim, I'm going to try to get out to Sotheby's once they have it in hand in their New York office. A little bit of content. And to be fair, I would just love to hold that watch. Yeah, I would love to buy that watch as well, but I'm not in the position to purchase it just yet. But certainly, if money was no object, this will most definitely be the lot I would be bidding on. With that said, that's all for this week's episode. If you see a story that's worth talking about on this episode, send me a DM on my Instagram at RomanSharf. I'll gladly include it in the upcoming episodes. Again, it has to be something relevant because I try to do the news as they come out every week. Other than that, like, comment, share, subscribe as always, and I will see you on the next one.